Hey, it's Pops. You know how sometimes there's a movie you like, and there's issues with it, and then you watch it, and like the amount of issues is exponentially more than you remembered, and yet you still love this film, and that is how I feel about The Lost Boys. It did not age glam, glam vampires before we had vamp. So, for those of you who don't understand, when you live through this era, there are peaks and valleys of different type of monsters and creatures and things like that. So it's sometimes hard to get content because this is a couple years before we got Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. We had sort of like comedic vampire films, and we had really only had Fright Night. So we really hadn't had much. So Richard Donner produces Joel Schumacher. I know the Batman Forever, Batman and Robin guy. Like, really? But the cast, oh my gosh, everything about this cast. And this is not even a softball for Mrs. Pops. All I have to do is say Lost Boys, and all she does is think about Jason Patric. And it's like putting a basketball on the tee for her. She is so in love with the Jason Patric in this movie. it is a blast to watch. I love the Frog Brothers. Now, the comic book source, we should talk about that because it's not how it went down. That's that yeah. Um, so look, s- family moves to town, boy meets girl, turns out they're vampires. We got to kill some vampires, and that's the story. I don't even know exactly why it's rated R because it really is a PG-13 movie by today's standards. I mean, maybe there was a couple edits or something that would have to be made to not be rated R, but it's pretty much a rated PG-13 kind of movie. Um, they use just a lot of quick edits and some wire work and things like that to account for the fact that this film is extremely low budget. It says 8.5 million on the budget. I got a feeling that is a lot of money spent on cast and the production team. Um, because there's really not a ton of effects and things like that. They just use like a lot of tricky editing and camera moves. They use like a massive helicopter and crane shots to give the swooping the vampires are flying. Um, yeah, I think yeah, this was it made money for its time at 4X, right? Went to 32 million, was a massive cult favorite during the VHS era. I mean, I don't know anyone who hadn't seen The Lost Boys. Um, was what just it was just a huge deal. Like before movies like The Crow and um more like, kind of like that alternative rock. People ended up calling it goth and emo stuff, but yeah, but this was kind of a look and a feel. There's a lot of music that fell into this sort of category if you were listening to Henry Rollins and Black Flag and stuff like that. So this movie transcended all that. Kiefer Sutherland, um, Alex Winter. Yeah, we had Bill. If we just wish we had a Ted cameo, it would have been great. Have a young Keanu Reeves show up somewhere. It would have been good. But Corey Haim, Corey Feldman were household names. Um, I love the silliness of some of the scenes, and I felt like kind of like it has some of the charm that you get from Goonies because the family feel and everything like that is all done well. Um, Poor Ed Herman, he he plays Max, who's the head vampire, and Ed Herman was like, he's like a big dramatic actor. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ed Herman's resume. He was like the voice of Dodge right after this. He basically was like the spokesman of Dodge. But his early work in his career, because it dates back a long time with Broadway and things like that. He'd been in Reds, Purple Rose of Cairo. He'd been an he ends up being later on. He ends up going back with Scorsese. He's an aviator. He's more of a dramatic actor, and he plays a dramatic role in this vampire movie. So, I look. I have all the love. I'm extremely biased when it comes to Dianne Wiest because I met her on the set of Edward Scissorhands, and she was like your mom. It was so strange to have this professional actress like you're a nobody there, and you're like, yeah, it was great. So Lost Boys does not particularly age great. It isn't particularly that scary. It's got cheesy special effects. Like I said, cheesy cheesy approaches to making I think instead of scary or horror, it's intense. It's more like, chills rather than horrors or scares or jumps. It's more like just unnervingness with vampires and stuff like that, and then just having that comedic flavor with it, right? Just having a fun time. You literally, are seeing, like, comedic horror, um, and I gotta be honest, just the look of everything, it's still great to this day. So, let's just do a couple of quick shots, here briefly from the trailer. Um uh, it just like I said, look at the shadow work they do, Jason Patric. Um, it was weird too because they don't exactly explain. Like he drinks blood, but you're like, well, then he's not a vampire because he hasn't done a kill yet. Things like that. So um, they just do a really good like Goonies. Other movies do it well where they're just moving into a town. Here's the comic book scene. I have no idea. I have no. I'm not defending what the wardrobe department made extreme decisions for Corey Haim. Um, None of us dress like this. He has this radical wardrobe for a kid during this era that he goes into some rando comic book store where there are no boards, by the way. All the comic books are loose or bagged only. So that tells you something right there, right? This is more of like a commercial, like a convenience store would be like this. This is more like that type of thing. And he starts asking about like Superman number 4, I think. I'm like, dude, that would be in a glass case somewhere, even in the 80s. Like, let's just stop pretending that you're going to pick it up and read it. Like, it's more like it's Hollywood people trying to talk like the nerds that they're really not nerds. It's okay. It's okay. I have to let things like that go, according to my wife. But um, yeah, but it was really good. But yeah, I want to comment on the wardrobe a little bit. Frog Brothers stuff. Frog Brothers, vampires. Um, yeah, good fun 80s. This is literally like 80s movie trope stuff with like the concert feels and things like that. Um, Seeing the hot girl across the room, which is funny too, by the way. I don't know her name. Look up her name real quick. She's the girlfriend that in Twister. Jami Gertz. That's right, Jami Gertz. She plays Star. Such a great name. Such a hippie name. Hot girl. And it's like the motorcycle chase. And by the way, Jason Patric's motorcycle. Jason Patric, right? I got his name right. Maybe I didn't say it wrong. Yeah, Jason Patric. Um, it's more like it's sort of like a Kawasaki or something. It's more like a small. It definitely doesn't feel like it's not a hog, man. It's really kind of lowbrow. So and just a silly, walk off the cliff, hang off the rafters, drink the blood stuff. It was just he's hallucinating. Stuff was spoiled in the trailer. Oh, that's a shame. So they really did put a lot in here, even if it's stuff that just kind of swings by. So this is the cut scene. So, but the problem is what they show you in the trailer is all that's in the movie. It's so fast. It's not like it hangs there. It doesn't become like 28 days later or anything like that. So, um, yeah. Um, well, we didn't have a lot of this yet, right? We didn't have the vampire stuff, everyone at risk, supernatural things, but they did come up with some cool shots. There was some money being spent, I guess. And then just a silly, they ruin a ton of this movie in the trailer, um, for sure. So yeah, so there's a ton of jokes, tons of things that are ruined in the trailer. Um, just have a good time. I'm gonna love the movie, even though I'm willing to admit, like, I totally get if you've never seen this movie and you watch it for the first time, or let's say you're a 20 something or younger folks and you just now watch it, you'd be like, I don't understand why these people love this movie. I get it. This movie, it didn't age as well as many of us would like it to. Um, but it is definitely a snapshot of the 80s of what life was like for the most part. It captures the essence of the 80s movies tropes. It showcases a lot of people who become stars like Kiefer Sutherland. It and it gave us some horror vampire stuff. Like it was really a good film for its time, for that genre, right? Because this is in between. So it's in between Fright Night. It's in between and Dracula because those are kind of like these big vampire movies of their time. So anyway, that's my take. I love watching it again, and I would watch it again. Mrs. Pops gives me the go. Like, yes, we can watch that again. It's going right in. It can just be on at this point. We've both seen this movie dozens of times over the course of our life for sure. So, 1987, I believe. So yeah, I think we're 87. Yeah, saw it in the theater. Definitely remember seeing it. That poster is iconic. Just everything about it. So, uh, I'm sure you guys are going to tell me all you guys tell me. You guys tell me how crazy I am, how much you love this movie. Tell me, yeah, you're right, Pops. It's not that good. Didn't hold up. Fair enough. Let's go. Let's go. Let's bring it. Let's talk some Lost Boys.
Pop, pop, pop music. Pop, pop, pop music.
Hi, sweetie.
Like, please don't eat me.
Gotta have my